Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Hercules and the Space Gods, we'll explore the ET Enigma, the ET entity Enigma, or the UFO entity Enigma. We're changing names of a lot of our programming, so it's going to take me a little while to adjust to it. I have with us our Torchbearers for today's adventures. I have the one, the only Tim Schwartz.
Hi, Hercules.
Greetings and welcome. I have Alan Greenfield, he who is known far and wide by many generations of magical folk and who has many legends attached to his name.
Gee, I feel like I'm 150, but hi, Hercules.
We have Amon, the one, the only Amon.
Hi, hello guys, how are you? It's nice to be seen finally. I'm no longer Mr. Gray Phone. This is me. Hello, hi everybody. Hello Tim, how are you? It's nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
I have
And
Paul
everybody.
Hale Roberts. Greetings, Paul,
Hey, greetings. Hello, everybody.
who is
Hi.
about comic books as well as the supernatural. And he has a supernatural show and a comic book show that he can generate at will on his time slot. So I'm glad you're here. And
Thank
last but not least, we have Apulia, she who is known in New York. Greetings, Apulia, and very
known as what?
known as a metaphysician of great wisdom and depth. So I'm glad everybody's here. And today we're going to talk about messages from outer space. And rather than just general messages from outer space, because it's too broad a topic, I'd like to focus on the ETs that you happen to be attuned to, communicating with, or familiar with through your study, and to focus on several questions. Number one, who are we? Number two, why are we here? Number three, who are they? Number four, why are they here? And hopefully we'll get some insight through our conversations. Now, one of the things I'll just take up a sentence to add this. One of the things I discovered by doing what I do, I was a deep trance medium in New York for a while back in the 70s, is communicate with all sorts of different types of beings. I'm Greek and we grew up in a very superstitious or folklore environment. So there's all sorts of ways of communicating with the invisible there, as well as what I've learned by living here in the United States. And something startling I discovered, mostly through Mark Brinkerhoff and Phyllis, is that when I was doing my thing, the spirits that were talking to me, and Mark was only a few blocks away doing his thing at the time, are very similar. So I began to wonder about the riddle of where these beings actually located. And are there local organizations of beings that talk to mediums or the channels? I don't have a total answer for that yet, but I have many suspicions. So that's become part of my quest. And this episode that we're doing is part of that particular quest. So without further ado, we go to Tim Schwartz. Greetings, Tim, and thank you for being here.
Oh, greetings, Hercules, and thank you very much for having me as part of your show today. It's always a great pleasure to talk with all the great people that you're able to gather for this fantastic adventure. And I want to start out real quick by saying that I spent the weekend in Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
All right.
Wow.
With the 70th anniversary of the Kelly Green Man incident, which happened in 1955. And even though they've been referred to as the Green Men, these little creatures that were seen by the Sutton family were actually kind of grayish in color and with maybe wearing silvery, shiny suits. And so, I mean, this convention, it was called Goblin Con 2025, because they're also referred to as the Kelly Goblins, because these creatures had they were short, they had like big bulging eyes to the sides of their heads, and then big, almost elephant-like ears. And so I got to meet a lot of fantastic people and just had a wonderful time talking to everybody. And I was on the UFO panel with just some excellent people and just had a great time. So now I'm back and kind of tired. But you know, we're going to be talking about messages from space. And Hercules, like you said, these messages a lot of times and for centuries, maybe even and probably even longer than that, oftentimes have claimed to be coming from extraterrestrial sources from other planets. You know, I know early in like the 15 and 1600s, there were messages that people were receiving from moon people, as they claim. And it just, and of course, if you think about the various communications that people have received in what could be described as religious context. And if you look at some of the ones that are received today, there's not a lot of difference. I think it's all a matter of personal interpretations. And Hercules, you had talked about the messages that you were receiving alongside of Mark, and it just makes me wonder, because you said, are these messages more localized? Well, what is localized? Because if we're dealing with intelligence that maybe are operating outside of our normal time, in those other realms of reality, then I imagine that no matter where you are in the universe, that you would receive the same kind of messages just as easily. You know, because whatever these other planes of reality they surround and encompass, or my three-dimensional mind just has trouble even conceiving it or coming up with the proper words. But I'll just stay with what I was saying about the idea that no matter where you are, you'll probably be receiving the same kind of messages, which makes me wonder if, when we do travel to other planets and have our first interaction with actual extraterrestrials, we may ask them, well, okay, why have you been coming to our planet, flying around in our skies, leaving us cryptic messages, and leaving it at that? They'll probably say to us, we thought it was you flying around in our skies.
Yeah. That is likely.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to these messages as involved with the UFO mystery, I mean, again, even before Kenneth Arnold had his first UFO sightings, there were people receiving supposedly messages from other planets. Now, some people would say that Nikola Tesla. Now, these weren't like telepathic messages, but Tesla had the first radio receiver that he built himself at Colorado Springs, Colorado. And one evening, he started receiving what seemed to him to be almost like Morse code type messages that he wasn't able to decipher. And he speculated that possibly he was listening to one planet, as he put it, greeting another. But before that, and even after, these messages have been almost a constant stream of information to us. And I think it was John Keel who postulated that these messengers are out there forever, eternal, and it just takes the right person to pick them up and then interpret them. Joshua Cutchin has a book that he just came out with recently that kind of goes into this same idea. His idea was more along the lines of that ideas, innovation, creativity is out there already and just waiting for somebody to pick it up and run with it. And I think it may be the same way with these alleged messages from outer space. In the late 1920s, radio enthusiasts noticed that if you beamed a radio signal out into space, a lot of times they had a tendency to bounce back. And nobody could figure out what these messages were bouncing off of. Now, later, people were able to bounce radio signals off the moon. But these signals weren't being bounced off the moon. They were bouncing off something else, which led to speculation that there were unknown satellites around the Earth. And again, remember, this was in the 1920s, and people were already starting to talk about that. And then you had the whole Dark Knight controversy, which originally in the 1950s, radar operators on Earth noticed what appeared to be unknown satellites in polar orbit around the Earth. And these were massive objects, and a lot bigger than anybody could have sent, from Earth could have sent into space. And of course, at this time, nobody had flown into space yet. The Soviet Union, it was still years away before they sent out Sputnik. So once the UFO phenomena actually gained public attention, especially in the late 50s and 60s, you started to see people who were, especially like ham radio and CB enthusiasts, claiming that they were receiving messages through their radios from the flying saucer people, which led to supposedly various kinds of contacts. And I'm going to have to, this is in my memory, but I don't remember offhand if his messages first originated from radio transmissions or if they were all telepathic. But Michael X. was one of these people who were receiving messages from extraterrestrial sources that would tell him to meet them, on top of hills and mountains, where he would receive all kinds of visitations and messages. So he'd write his book. Now, Tim Beckley told me this interesting story about Michael X, that he gave it all up one time when he received a telepathic message, this time to meet his space friends in this new location. But when he got there, he was actually ambushed by guys with rifles who beat the snot out of him and left him there bleeding in the dirt. And that was it for Michael X. He decided that he was going to get away from that and didn't accept any more telepathic communications. But most of the time, these messages have been more of a spiritual nature, which, again, I'll go back to my previous statement about what's the difference sometimes between messages that people have been receiving from, the angels or the gods or Jesus or whatever, or these alleged extraterrestrial sources, because they all ultimately, if you boil them down, kind of are conveying the same messages. It's like John Keel said. It's like this record player in the sky that just keeps playing over and over again, and just waiting for the right people to pick them up. And you also had the guy from Rendlesham, Pennington, I think is how you pronounce his name, who years later said that he had received a mental download when he actually reached out and touched the craft after it landed at Rendlesham, but it took him years for it finally to make its way out. And he actually wrote down a series of binary codes over like 16 pages worth of ones and zeros that then claimed to be not extraterrestrial but time travelers.
Wow.
Yeah, and that had various kinds of messages and coordinates to various locations. But again, throughout history, we see these same kinds of messages and stories come down to us, but ultimately, really leading to nowhere. Here we are in 2025 talking about this subject with no finale. And you would think after all this time, with these people receiving these messages, that it would ultimately lead to something. But I think that people are concentrating too much on the message and not the source. And I think the true message that is to look at the source and interpret the message based on that. And I think that until we come to that point where we have enough discipline in order to properly interpret these messages and leave out our belief systems, our ego, political ideologies, things like that, the messages are just going to keep repeating themselves. And we see that. I mean, the same kind of messages that channelers and some UFO experiences are receiving. Like I said before, pretty much the same stuff that have been coming to us for thousands of years. So again, it's like you asked Hercules, what's the source of these messages? Are they coming from outer space? Are they coming from closer to home? Or is there any difference? I don't think there's any difference. So when you see these messages, when you look at other people talking about these messages, consider the source and compare what has been coming down to us all these years. And I think then we may have a better idea of what is trying to be said to us. Because again, like I said, we're missing the message. We're concentrating. I think we're concentrating too much on the minutia of these messages and not grasping the full picture of it. And I'll leave it at that. So I'm sure that if there's other people chomping at the bit to get in on this, but I'll leave it at that.
Before I pass it on to the person who's most chomping at the bit, so thank you very much. Very wise points. I was so tempted to jump in and address some of these points, but then the hour would be over and we wouldn't get anywhere. So thank you very much. As always, you've laid a very solid foundation upon which all of us can build, and everything was eloquently and thoroughly said. Thank you, Tim.
My pleasure, Hercules.
So we'll go to Paul Dale Roberts, whose picture appeared more often than anyone else's, just rotated through the pictures.
And Tim said it right. He said no finale. And I'm going to tell you, back in 2001, this crop circle, it's called the Chilbolton crop circle, appeared in England. And when I saw that, I said, wow, that is a direct message from extraterrestrials. And it had a binary code on there, and I forgot what the message was. It had a DNA double helix. It had the solar system, where they're from, and they had a humanoid figure with this large head, kind of reminded me of the Greys. And I said, they're responding to our Arecibo message that was sent from Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. That was a direct response. And I said, okay, they need to get every scientist out there in the world and investigate this, find out if it's real. It's got to be real. It's so complex. You had two guys who were hoaxers, Doug Bauer and Dave Shorley. And they said they took a plank of wood, some ropes, and some wire, and they made all these crop circles in England. BS. That is total BS. And crop circles appear everywhere. They appear in Australia. I think they had a couple in Germany. They had one. Well, I'm in Sacramento, and Fairfield is about 40 minutes down the road. They had a crop circle in Fairfield. So I don't think Doug and Dave got on an airplane and flew to Fairfield to make that crop circle in Fairfield. I just don't believe it. I don't think they're flying all around the world in Australia and everything else. The Chilbolton crop circle needed to be thoroughly investigated. There was a message right there, and people there was no finale. It's just like it just went away. And that solar system was a mysterious solar system, and a lot of the alien abductees, they either say that the aliens are from Pleiades or Orion or from Sirius. We need to find out that unknown solar system, use AI, whatever, to try to locate it in outer space. And it was very disappointing that it went nowhere. Just like Tim was saying, there was no finale. And I was very upset about it. And I'm still upset.
Well, thank you very much.
Hercules, I just want to make a real quick comment to what Paul was saying about that. I just recently saw a short film about this guy giving crop circle tours to tourists, and they were out at night in this field with pretty high, maybe it was like corn, but I mean you couldn't see into it, and he's telling the tourists, like the crop circles and how Doug and Dave allegedly faked it with the boards and ropes and things like that, and then all of a sudden they hear these strange noises in the field, so everybody goes running through this field to try to catch it, and when they come into this clearing, they find a group of aliens with boards and rope stomping the crop circles. And the aliens like turn and they're like, oh, and then jump in their flying saucer and fly away. So there's your explanation right there.
Oh my God. And with the crop circles too, they've actually have film footage of these little orbs that fly around, and then it does something, and then boom, magically the crop circle appears.
Thank you so very much to Paul and to Tim for expanding on the tale, to Paul for expanding on Tim's tale. And
that's a good one. That was a good one.
We have a great synergy happening here. Now I'm going to move to Amon. And Amon and I are involved in a project of trying to do something with messages from the beyond. Mine come from my youth with theosophical organizations, and I knew John Keel back then. And Tim is right; he compared everything like a broken record that plays the same thing over and over and over again since the dawn of time. So this is in part the inspiration to him. But there were certain things I was told when I was in my late teens, early 20s, that I decided not to pursue. So now that I'm in my late 60s, and this is kind of like the last few chapters of my life, I figure, well, why not? I might as well do it. I might be uniquely suited for doing something like this. And of course, Amon, with his background and his knowledge base, is a perfect person to be partnering with. So I moved the scepter of communication over to Amon.
All right. Well, thank you, Hercules. That was very kind of you to say. Everybody can see me now, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You're
okay,
visible.
Good. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. Well, the moon is in Scorpio, so I decided to wear something black. So usually I have lots of bright colors. I like Hawaiian shirts and things like that. Tim, you know how Hercules was saying that a lot of correspondences and a lot of connections were being made in his mind when you're giving your introduction. And, I came to the same conclusion that, there is no real conclusion, and no one has really come to a conclusion. Alex and I, my nephew and I, we really love the series put out by the History Channel called Project Blue Book. And I'm sure you guys have heard of Project Blue Book, early 50s.
Hmm.
Yes. So a lot of crop circles in there, but no conclusions at all. You know, like you said about that there are really no conclusions that really anyone has really come to. But I think the government was involved in making sure there were no real conclusions at that point. I mean, based on Project Blue Book, on these episodes that we're watching, because Dr. Hynek and Captain Quinn's one of their missions was to cover everything up, to debunk it, and not really tell the truth. But so many of those cases were undebunked or were not debunked. But anyway, so we're really enjoying that series, Project Blue Book. But lately, since 2011, since my wife and I got more into our Urantia book studies, we've been seeing the cosmos, seeing the universe through the lens of the Urantia book, which was published in 1955. Which is interesting because Project Blue Book was happening in the early 50s, and then all of a sudden you have the Urantia book, which is a big blue book, being published in 1955. And during the 60s and 70s, people were calling it the Alien Bible because it's Bible based, it's Trinitarian, and there are lots of aliens in there. But aliens as far as like the celestials. So in talking about the messages that we're receiving from ETs, I'd like to take a Urantia book approach here and say that we've not only been receiving messages, but according to the Urantia book, we've been having actual intervention from celestials and ETs. The Urantia book talks about 5 epochs that we have had since the dawn of early man. These epochs were called epochal revelations, or there were revelations within the epochs called epochal revelations. The first revelation was, or the first epoch was the planetary prince age, when human beings were developed enough to receive some teachings, some celestial teachings. In this first epoch, the teachings were done by the planetary prince. There was a commission of celestial beings who incarnated and were in charge of upstepping us, the human race at that time, culturally, with education and so on and so forth. And then the second epoch was when Adam and Eve came to the earth, and they not only tried to upstep educationally and culturally, but also biologically. They were sent to infuse violet blood into the race to upstep them. The third epoch was when a Melchizedek incarnated. And by the way, the planetary prince, the Adam and the Eve, and the Melchizedek all incarnated. So this Melchizedek incarnated and worked with Abraham on some things in early formation of the religion in that part of the world. And then, of course, the Bible portion of the Alien Bible Urantia book is Jesus incarnated as the 4th epochal revelation. And then the Urantia book, and of course, according to the narrative, he interacted with us here on Earth. And then the 5th epochal revelation is the Urantia book itself. It says that itself is the revelation. So when I think, Hercules, we had that one program on the Pleiadians, and it was just really, it was fabulous. I loved it so much. It was a real eye-opener to me because then I started understanding that Pleiadians and beings, entities, people from Orion and Sirius were actually these celestials that I was reading about and studying in the Urantia book. There are celestial creators who create within a local universe or a super universe. They also administer, they uphold, and they incarnate, and they interact closely, like angels, interact closely with humans for the upliftment of humans. And that's kind of like answering the question why they are here. I believe, and according to the Urantia book too, that these celestial creators and overseers are here to help us in our development, but they also in turn are assisted in their development too, according to the Urantia book. So there's kind of a give and take in that way. But so not only do they intervene personally and physically, but I believe that, like you guys, I believe we're getting constant messaging, and there are lots of Adams and Eves, by the way, not just one Adam and Eve. So I don't know. I think there's intervention, direct intervention, and constant messaging. And I think a lot of it comes from, like with Unarius, in the Unarius tradition. I believe a lot of it comes.
We'll be having Unarians joining us in some future shows as well.
Fantastic. I believe, a lot of our information is coming from Venus. Some of the technology that we get and some of the direction that we need to move educationally and culturally. So I think there are a lot of celestials out there, a lot of beings that are working directly and indirectly with us. So, and we're from all over the place. I don't think we're all just from the Earth. I think there are some peoples, some races on different spheres that are perhaps germane to that particular sphere. But then I think probably I would say like 75% or more are from other places. We're all from other places doing lots of different things according to this celestial hierarchy and administration. So that's my spiel.
Thank you for your spiel.
Yeah.
It focuses on another facet of the phenomenon, one that we've been touching on through our shows that focus on a particular belief system. And for many years, you and Diane had differently titled shows on mostly the Urantia book, supplemented by other spiritualities that you had explored and were familiar with. So I'm grateful that you're still with us and still sharing your explorations. Thank you, Michael.
You bet. Thank you.
And now we'll go to Apulia.
Hi.
Hi,
Well,
how are you?
well, you asked what I'm known for. I'm just an ordinary person. I've been in many, I'm a seeker, a spiritual seeker.
With an extensive magical background.
Okay. I do have that, always seeking. Years ago, I had an experience. I had a sighting, and I'm not professional UFO hunter or anything. I had that sighting. That's how I first met Tim Beckley. And then I forgot about it. I forgot about it for 20 years. But suddenly it came back. It was like a really odd thing that I had just forgotten this happened. How could you forget such a thing? It's not something you forget easily. And then I sought out Tim and we reconnected. And during that period, I joined some groups trying to get more answers like you're talking about here. But I wanted, I thought I could learn from other people's experiences. So I joined a meetup group that was headed by a man called Joe Cap. This was before Tim wasn't really doing anything in this area in New York City at that time. So I joined this group, Joe Cap. Joe Cap was a retired computer person who lived in Brooklyn, and he set up a UFO hotline back in Brooklyn, in Park Slope. and he would take people's experiences, and he got some media attention. He was on the news for a while. Uh, Different people would come to his group, and it was really interesting. People brought photos that were real. Nobody else. I remember one person brought a a photo of a triangle ship that he saw over the Hudson. So Joe took it to someone to verify that it was a real ship, not a phony. Uh, well, we would call it AI, but I don't think they had AI in 2011. It was a very interesting looking thing. Unfortunately, I came towards the end of his time and he died of a heart attack, and that was the end of his group. But then, while I was there, I met another person named Lillian Waters, who was a MUFON investigator. And in her group, what was so interesting was she was able to attract people of all sorts with so many different experiences. Many of them had messages from outer space that they wanted to share with us. Some of them, one man had an army experience, terrible experience, as I recall, where he was being harassed by the army for something he had seen, and he was told to keep quiet. I can't verify all this, but it was still quite interesting. One woman claimed she was taken aboard a ship. Well, Lillian believes she was also a contactee, and she had taken. I remember I used to joke with Tim about the Space Brothers. I said, "Oh well, if I'd love to meet one of those tall, handsome, Nordic-looking types, And I said something like that to this woman, and she said, "No, you wouldn't. They're really horrible and cold. You wouldn't want to talk to them at all." So there was one person after another. There were so many people with different experiences to share. Some of them I don't believe. There were two guys there that were bringing a message of peace to the world. It sounded like something they read in a book. So I didn't buy their story. But some of the others were incredible. And then I got more involved with Tim, and I went to some of his last meetings where they had professional people talking about their experiences. And I wanted to share that. I'm always looking to hear people's experiences. Some of them were pretty horrible, and some are not. Uh, the fellow Dr. Greer, he wants everybody to think everybody is nicey nice, but I don't know if you're being abducted against your will. That doesn't sound very nice to me. And others have good experiences. What can I say? I thought I would share that.
Thank you very much. And you two have added another dimension to our conversation. Thank you so much, Apulia.
And was that Stephen Greer that she was
Yes,
referring?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, he
Okay.
spoke. I'm also in Nick Curto's group, New York Disclosure, and he's made a few phone calls to that group. It was interesting to hear him speak. He also had, now this one, Oliver Stone's son, Sean Stone, I think he's passed away. I'm not sure. He spoke to us too. Very interesting person, was really open about exploring more about this. But different people have different experiences. I just don't buy Dr. Greer's experiences. Well, his idea. I won't say his experiences. He claims to have had experiences as well.
And I've heard that from other people too.
The same thing I said.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, he's important because he opened up this whole thing with the press conference that he did, what was it, 20 years ago or 15 years ago? It's a very important thing that he did, but I don't know about some of the other things. I remember Lillian had questions about him too. Sadly, Lillian passed away too. She has a memorial page on Facebook, New York Lily, she called herself. But I'm glad I met her, and she did investigate a few things.
And that's a question that we can explore in another program. How trustworthy are the messages from outer space, according to our thoughts and the evidence presented to us? Thank you so much, Apulia. And now, last but not least, someone who may very well be an ancient alien himself, Alan Greenfield, the one, the only, the legendary, who deciphered the secret cipher of the extraterrestrials and very many other mysteries.
Ultra-terrestrials, in
All
my view.
extraterrestrials. I stand corrected.
Yeah. Okay. First, let me sort of plug something because it's important, I think. Amun, is it like Amen is probably derived from the same word. This is not my project, but I hear from my publisher that they are coming out with a book that contains all of the Project Blue Book special reports,
Oh,
starting,
no way.
yeah, well, not 13. 13 is unavailable, but 1 through 14, including 14, which is like Project Blue Book Special Report 14 to old hands in ufology. That's a very important thing. That's what, for several years, my friend Jim Mosley got involved with Dr. D, who was actually a credentialed academic, for whatever that may be worth, because I am a credentialed academic. And with that and bus fare, I can get on the bus. You know what I mean? But I think that book, if it has all of that stuff, plus I was asked to write an introduction to it, for which I get nothing, but I wrote one, so it put it in some perspective. But I think that's something that you would be very, very interested in seeing, because it
Yeah.
goes all the way from the end of Project Grudge, which became Project Blue Book, all the way to 1968, when Project Blue Book shut down. I know
Yeah.
because I had to write my senator saying who I knew. Please, and he was the head of the Senate Armed Services Committee at the time, Senator Russell. I said, please don't let them destroy the files of Project Blue Book. So I wound up getting me a security clearance, and I went to inspect the files. Long story, and I won't go there. But somewhere along the line, getting back to my own stuff, I discovered this cipher, and anyone who's read my key books, or the ones that are perennial good sellers, like Secret Cipher, The Euphonauts, or best, The Complete Secret Cipher, The Euphonauts, I noticed that there is a code embedded in the presentation of these alien beings. That is to say, they often have nonsense sounding names. One of the most famous from the medium Mark Probert, who was a house medium of Mead Lane's Borderland Sciences, called himself Maharaja Nacha. Now, does that invalidate the experience? No. But does it mean something that this name is absolutely ludicrous? Maharaja Nacha? Please. That doesn't sound very extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial. It sounds like, an advertisement for Taco Bell. Your nachos are Maharaja. so I used this cipher, which itself was part of a trans-channel communication. And I'm not going to invoke the name of Uncle Alistair Crowley, because yeah, IWAS was an ultra-terrestrial beings. In fact, I just wrote a piece that argues the occultists hate ufology because they think it's not respectable, which, like, the occult is respectable? Yeah, please. It's a lot more respectable. I don't see any congressional hearings on the occult. But
That's changing, by the way, and you helped change that. So thank you.
yeah, well, I'm trying. I mean, it's a 60-year struggle on my part to make this all one thing. And that's kind of the point I was going to make. Some of these communications seem to me to be coming from something that is very, very ancient in Earth years. And I suspect that it is just what it used to claim to be. And I can't remember which of my books, I think it was Secret Rituals of the Men in Black. Was it? Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it must be a type of fame or whatever that you can't remember which book you wrote it in. But I think it was Secret Rituals of the Men in Black. I wrote a chapter as a cautionary note about a very popular trans-channel communicator that calls itself Ashtar or Ashtar Command, which has a huge following as far as I can tell from the internet. Well, Ashtar has a history. You know, you have to look up somebody's uh, police record or whatever. Ashtar is a variation of the name Ashtaroth, which is a medieval fallen angel, i.e., a demon. And if you look back, as I have at the medieval grimoires, or even come forward to the early 1800s, where the guy named Barrett wrote a book called The Magus, which just regurgitates the medieval grimoires, but is a useful, you know, accessible source, and it, I think, is always in print. Anyway, he has a picture from a medieval grimoire of the demon Ashtaroth. And Ashtaroth has the interesting following thing that it said to the equivalent of trans-channelers back in the day, medieval times or earlier, which is, well, it had to be late medieval times because of what I'm about to say. He said, I'm not really a fallen angel. Yeah, that's right. But I have become a reformed, just like I'm a reformed Jew, he's a reformed angel. It's sort of the same thing, except we have different rabbis. So he says, I am no longer a fallen angel. I am a positive source of information, and I have migrated to America. This is like 1500s, 1600s. And it starts to show up primarily in America as Ashtar Command, which is a series, a long series of non-terrestrial communications that if I were, well, I have, if I were getting communications from something that long since has been identified as a demon, I probably would take it with several grains of salt. Salt being the way that you create a magic circle to keep out the evil beings in occultism. And my only advantage is I have one foot in the occult and the other foot in ufology. Anyway, not only is this medieval knowledge available if you want to look it up, or in my book, if you want to look at a secondary source with opinions, since I seem to be full of those, or full of something anyway. It goes back to an ancient Assyrian, well, we'll call it a Mesopotamian god, Ashtaroth, or Ishtar in the feminine form, which really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. If I chase somebody off, uh, Michael Duncan.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
I can hear you. Hold
Yeah.
on. Let me
I'm still
finish my
here.
rant, and then it's
Oh, no, no.
all yours.
No, I just wanted to say I'm still here. I'm just looking something up about Ishtar.
Oh, okay. Well, Ishtar has is the goddess of love, meaning sex, in the ancient way of looking at things, but also the god of war, goddess of war. So that's a very ancient Mesopotamian thing, probably going back at least to Sumer, often falsely called the first civilization, and coming forward through Babylon and Assyria, right down to the trans-channel groups that are still doing Ashtar Command. I think the people doing this are sincere people, but I think if I were giving a talk at one of those groups, I would say, always test your sources. That is a lesson from the medieval grimoires. They would tell you if you contact I'm going to use the word alien in the broader sense, not Mexicans crossing the border and not beings from Pluto or Alpha Centauri, but anything that comes from outside the acknowledged human realm. Test it, especially if you've conjured it up by looking for it, whether you're standing on a hill blinking a flashlight at the sky, which used to be very common in ufology in the 50s, 1950s. I have to say that now because we're getting towards the 30s, 2030s, excuse me. And it goes all the way from that to the very, very long tradition of trans-channeling.
And we have like 5 more minutes before I need to start wrapping up the show. So this is definitely a to be continued, but finish your thought.
Well, just that I don't want to end on a negative note, but be very careful. Always question your sources. Be polite, as it says in the Book of the Balance, but always question your sources. The most interesting thing about the contact that Crowley claims as the basis of Thelema, his religion, was before he considered it a religion. A couple of years after the transmission from Iwas, he wrote in his own handwriting on the cover, "This is a case of automatic writing." Later, he revised that to being a revelation. But then so is the Book of Mormon, so is a Hospi, so is the Urania book. In a sense, the traditional holy books have been in certain New Age circles supplanted by modern books, which is fine. But I think whenever there is an absence, there are good sources and there are absolutely, totally evil sources. End of rant.
Thank you so very much. And that is a good point. And that is one of the topics under this particular umbrella. So thank you for introducing it. My personal experiences with the Ashtar people have been mixed. There have been groups like Mark Age and one of Tuelo's groups in California that welcomed my inquiries and communicated pretty openly with me. Then there were other groups that seemed very paranoid by the fact that I was talking to them. So that, again, it's a conversation for another day.
Well, yeah, but Mark Age, let me just say, there are earnest, good people who have made that communication. I won't even say that I haven't, but I'm just cautious about it. And I urge those people who are deep in the weeds on that to be cautious about that. Eventually you figure out, is this a good message or a bad message? If it's a bad message, you don't want it anyway.
Right.
Drive it out. If it's a good message, even if it's from something that makes fantastic claims, hold on to the message, because the message is the medium and the medium is the message.
Wise words with which to end today's conversation. Thank you very much, Alan. And now if you would kindly share how people can find you and enter your universe and partake of the wisdom that you've imparted through classes, through books, through all sorts of other ways of communication. And we will start this cycle too with Tim Schwartz.
Oh, well, thank you, Hercules. Well, you can find all of my stuff on there we go, on Amazon.com. Just type in my name, Tim R. Schwartz, and all my books will come tumbling out for your reading pleasure, both print and ebooks. Our most recent book is called Weird Time, Exploring the Mysteries of Time and Space. And Hercules and Paul have just wonderful chapters in this book, and I highly recommend it. And I should add that I sold a number of copies of Weird Time at the Hopkinsville Goblin Com. And this, by the way, is a doll from Geraldine Sutton, who is the daughter of one of the witnesses of the Kelly goblins. And she, unfortunately, she was born a couple of years after the incident and didn't find out about it until she was about 8 years old. So she's like one of the only surviving members of the family. So yeah, and I'll leave it at that. Goodbye.
Thank you. And
the purple people eater.
That's right. And the Kalikansari have not only ties to the Ayarika, which is the creatures of the air but also with the heavens and also with fairy folklore. So that's a conversation for another day. Thank you so very much, Tim. And next we go to Paul. Paul, who has many mouths on many different platforms and a very wide range of experiences that he shares. How can people find you and enter your world?
Okay, first off, Tim, I got this from the alien at Area 51. It's a little tiny alien, and it's a pin.
Oh, that's nice. That's sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Try automatic writing with that.
And for the goblin, I got this monster right there. But anyway,
Whoa.
you can find me very easy. Google Bing Paul Dale Roberts. You'll find a bunch of my articles. Now writing for 5 paranormal magazines. So Phenomena Magazine, Outer Limits Magazine. Oh God, I can't think of them no more. But anyway, there's a bunch of magazines out there. Plus, I've been doing free ebooks, and you can find those on the Internet Archive, and you can find them on Google Play and Google Books. And surprisingly, since it's free, a lot of people have been reading my books online. So anyway, that's how to find me, Paul Dale Roberts. And if you want to see some of my books, Paul Dale Roberts Books.
And Paul is a frequent guest on our panels, and he also has a few shows of his own on my channel. And he's also a panelist and has shows on other channels. So you will find Paul if you seek him very easily. Thank you, Paul. Amon, how can people find you and follow your explorations and all the wonderful things you've written and your music as well?
Well, thank you, Hercules. Thanks, guys. It's been a real pleasure. I want to do some show and tell, too. Hopefully you guys can see this. Is it backwards? Oh, it's backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
Project Blue Book, we have seasons 1 and 2. There are only 2 seasons, produced by Robert Zemeckis. Absolutely fabulous. And the final episode has, well, actually, the penultimate episode has JFK in it, because JFK was involved in one of the sightings in the Antarctic. There were some there was in the bottom of the ocean, there were some ships that were coming up, and they thought they were the Russians, and so on and so forth. Before I get to that, just really quickly, Alan, I have my dictionary of angels here. Astaroth and Astarte, the same being, I guess, is Venus, the queen of heaven, Astarte. And the Greeks borrowed their Aphrodite from Astarte. So, and of course, we know that with the Unarius traditions, we receive messages from Venus and guidance from Venus. And Astarte is also known in Neo-Theosophy as Mother Venus. So just wanted to put that in. And my YouTube channel is Michael and Diane Duncan. That's 2 N's in Diane and Dunkin, like Dunkin' Donuts. So Michael and Diane Duncan. We have our celestial team meetings on there. We have music, and we have our artwork. If you just Google my name, Reverend Michael Duncan, you can find all of my songs and my song albums. I have 5 song albums and an EP. They're spiritually, Urantia book inspired spiritual type, gospel type songs that I've written and produced myself. And if you want to email me, it's michaelduncan1@hotmail.com. And I'm putting the finishing touches on my new book called The League of Azure Blue Angels, which will be coming out probably the beginning of next year. Thank you, Hercules. Thank you, guys. It was really great being with you.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to mastering Zoom enough where we can share your music on this show. We used to have it on Blog Talk Radio, and it really enhanced our programs. Thank you very much, Amon.
Yeah, you bet.
Last but not least, the one, the only Alan Greenfield. How can people enter your world, sir?
Ladies first, please. You left someone out.
Oh, Apulia. I apologize. Apulia, how can people find you?
That's okay.
I forgive you as your bishop.
I'm not as eminent as everyone here.
Never had a bishop before, but
You do now.
I'm on Facebook. My name is Carol Linda Gonzalez. I welcome anyone who wants to share their experiences with me. As of now, I've only written one article for the Old Village Voice just before it on the New York pagan community, just before it ended its run in life. And maybe when I retire from the legal world, I'll have more to write and share. That's me.
You have a lot to share. I've heard stories from you, and I've heard stories from other people who know you. So you're full of stories, and I look forward to your sharing them, hopefully in other episodes of the show or in your retirement in your book. Thank you
Sure.
very much, Apulia. And
And
now I
Alan.
return to my bishop. Greetings, old bishop. I'll find you and enter your world.
Subumbra alarm tetragrammaton, or Tahuti, the master of magic. To the really initiated idiots, they know what I mean. Those who laugh know too much. They knew too much. Okay, I'm supposed to plug here, right? Okay. Thank you, Hercules, for letting me on more than once, which is more than I can say of Facebook these days, because Flash, they threw me off for the third time yesterday.
Why?
All my troubles seem so far away. But if you want to read my books, of which there are many, especially as I've alluded to here, The Complete Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts, that's 3 volumes in 1 or 2, I don't know. I don't have anything to do with publishing. And you can go to Amazon. I kind of prefer that because I get my royalty faster if it's bought from Amazon, or any of the online booksellers and some bookstores. So the most recent is a book on ritual magic. The name that they gave it eludes me at the moment, something like 21st Century Magic. And the controversial Secrets of the Real Black Lodge. Revealed.
I have that book.
Oh, okay. Do you have the first edition or the second edition?
Oh, I don't know. I don't recall.
If it has a lot of misspellings in it, not my fault,
okay.
that's the first edition. You need the second edition because the Black Lodge effed with the first edition a lot. So I don't even think it's out there anymore, but those who bought it, my condolences. And for those who worry about what I said, I had a longer message that talked about a lot of the good stuff, like my friends at the Light Lines community in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky. And they know the difference between good stuff and stuff that's liable to get you disappeared.
Thank you very much for your wisdom and for the stories and the way in which you tell the stories. You are part of the team now, and so you'll be invited to whatever you'd like to participate in. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to our continuous conversation. We went to some interesting places today. Basically, when I asked the beings who they were, they said that they're us. So
bingo.
There we go. So there are some of these beings that appear as beings of light, and there are some of these things that appear as beings of shadow. Just because they're light doesn't mean they're good. Just because they're shadow doesn't mean they're bad. They kind of work together, and they not only seek training through us for creativity and our responses to the events that we're experiencing here, but this is also a form of entertainment, I've been told, and that the name that they've given this is not Urantia, but Arena. So basically, that's what I've been told.
Arena.
For what it's worth. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
You too.
Good night.
All right. Good night, all.
Thank you.
God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Jim.